Hey guys, I wanted to make a quick little follow-up video to my Druid build guide. I've gotten a lot of questions on it, and instead of just replying to the same comments over and over and over again, I figured, one, I would just show you guys all of my final changes to the build, and two, I would go ahead and just answer a lot of those questions here. So yeah, let's get into it. First, I'm going to show you guys the changes to the build. This is the final version of the build. The only thing there is to do left is obviously level up more. I'm level 74, level up a little bit more, and, you know, distribute those Paragon points. But to be entirely honest with you guys, with the new confirmation that they're not going to be keeping your renown and you're gonna have to redo a lot of this shit over again in season 1, I am not going to even be pushing for level 100 with this, so I won't be able to showcase, you know, the Paragon board anyway for you guys. So this is probably right around the highest level I'm going to get before season 1 drops, because I just don't really feel inclined to grind to 100 and do all of that stuff. I'd rather just make some ults and play some other characters. So let me go ahead and show you guys the changes to the build, then I'll answer these questions. Why is my damage not as high as yours, Zach? Do you have a link to the build, Zach? When should I transition to this build? This idea that the build doesn't work in Nightmare Dungeons for some reason, because Nightmare Dungeons are so much harder than the regular content. How do I get these aspects, and how do I do the trample slide effectively? So let me go ahead and showcase the changes to the build, and then I will go ahead and answer those questions. All right, so the only thing I would change in the build from what I showed you guys is this aspect right here. I did not know how ridiculously overpowered this aspect is. This is the, when you trigger Nature's Fury, your non-ultimate cooldowns are reduced by up to 8 seconds. Now, the reason this is crazy is because what you can do is you can do your basic attack, right? So Storm Strike, and that will, if it activates the Earth Pillar, right? If you get that 20% chance and it activates Earth Pillar, which we'll see there, it just activated, then it will lower your cooldown on Trample and Earthen Bulwark by up to 8 seconds. For now, just ignore the fact that I'm using Claw, okay? Ignore that. Get that out of your brain. Just focus on what I'm saying here about Storm Strike, okay? We'll go into that in a second, but just focus on this, okay? So here's what you would do. You would go ahead and pop Earthen Bulwark, you would Trample, and then you would start attacking the air. Or attacking an enemy, but usually I'll just attack the air. And we got unlucky here. It's not proccing. Okay, so we'll try it again. Pop this, do this, attack the air. And you can see there, we have them both up again. And sometimes you'll get really lucky, and this will happen like on your first hit. And essentially what this is doing, like that. Now, when you get lucky and it activates on your first or second hit, you essentially have Trample ready again before you even have finished the landslides from your last Trample. Okay, so this is extremely strong when done. Of course, like we got it on first hit there. So essentially what's happening, we got it on first hit there, is that we are attacking with our Storm skill to hopefully get the free Earth skill, which then lowers the cooldown on our Trample and our Earthen Bulwark by up to 8 seconds. I only have the 7-second version, but this is absolutely crazy. And if you get good RNG, those events where it's like, you know, spawning the waves of enemies, literally all you have to do is trample to one side, and then the landslides will kill everything, and then you're just basic attacking while the next wave is spawning, and you'll have your trample ready again already. You just trample the other side of the screen, and you just rinse and repeat, and you're just one-shotting the entire waves. It's hilarious. So that aspect is God tier. That is the only aspect that I did not touch on in my initial video that is really, really strong. Also, in the initial video, I had this landslide earth pillars hit a second time. I had this on my weapon. You actually don't want that on your weapon. The one that you want on your weapon or your amulet is this trample one. So I actually have the mistake where this is on my ring, but this gets a far higher percentage and it's going to increase your damage far more. You can see this would be 140% extra damage if it was on my weapon, right? So that is the only changes I would have to the build, is to go ahead and add this aspect and move this landslide earth pillar to any of your other gear and move this one, the trample one, to your amulet or your weapon. Okay, so I know what you're wondering now. You're wondering, well, why the hell are you using claw? Okay, this is the final version of the build, the strongest version of the build that I'm running right now, but you can only do it if you have this unique staff. This is the only way that you can do this build, okay? And it increases your damage by over 200%. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous, the damage increase that you get from this. But you have to get this unique staff, which is a very rare drop, but it completely changes the game, and you will change your build once you get it. So even though I have, you know, weapons that are 820 item power and this is only 797, doesn't even matter. The damage increase I get from this is absurd. Why is that? Well, that's because it has the unique ability here that Claw becomes a Storm skill, and it casts Storm Strike at 120% up to 150% normal damage. So if we take a look at our abilities here, here is what we have done. All right, we have opted to put 1 point into Claw. That will allow us to go down the tree and get enhanced attack speed. And most importantly, Claw applies a poison. Now, I got some questions when I was streaming this build. People were confused. They're like, well, you're using Claw. Why would you have Storm Strike, right? It casts Storm Strike as well. So any points that you have in Storm Strike are going to also affect your skill. And we still need the Immobilize from Storm Strike to get the Terremote stacks. And we still want the Vulnerable from Storm Strike because Vulnerable is super strong, right? So that's why we still have points in this. Now you may be curious why we put 2 extra points into Storm Strike, right? Why do we only have 1 point into Claw but 2 into Storm Strike? That's because since Storm Strike is being cast at 120% extra damage, you're actually getting 12% roughly damage increase each point that you put into Storm Strike, whereas you're only getting 10% each point you put into Claw. So it's actually more efficient for your damage to put points into Storm Strike since it's being cast at a higher multiplier. Just trust me on that, and trust me on the fact that you want the Immobilize and you also want the Vulnerable. So you may be asking yourself, well, why the hell do you want the attack speed and why do you want the poisoning? You want the poisoning damage because if we go down here, you can get this. Poisoned enemies are slowed. This is going to make it so they're you get extra CC damage against the enemies, which is fantastic. And this is the big one right here. Poisoned enemies take 30% extra crit damage. So now your crits are doing significantly more. And since that perfectly works with our build, right, where we are basic attacking and then landsliding, we're going to be poisoning them. We're going to be making them vulnerable. We're going to be making them slowed since they're going to be poisoned. So we're going to be getting CC damage. We're going to be getting extra crit damage. It's absolutely insane. We still have the 1 point in trample. We have the 3 points here and 3 points here still. Only 2 points here instead of the 3. This was one of the areas we had to reallocate some points. Same with over here with Poison Creeper. I saw some people saying, oh, you should take Brutal Poison Creeper. Unfortunately, now we just don't have the points. And this is with all the extra points from Renown as well. So I just still have the 1 point in Poison Creeper for the CC and the Terremotes. Still have the 1 point here and here and here for Earthen Bulwark. Still have Landslide obviously maxed out up to the Terremote. Still have all 3 of these maxed out because they're fantastic. Then we come down here. I still have 3, 3, and 3. This is just huge damage. You don't want to get rid of this. Still Petrify. still have increased fortify you gain from all sources by 15%. This definitely covers the loss from getting rid of a point here. Honestly, you could probably get rid of another couple points in fortify because I still have no issue keeping 100% uptime on fortify. So you could 100%, you know, move some of these around if you really want the extra damage. We still have the 3 out of 3 in quick shift, which, take note, now that we are using claw, that's a shape-shifting skill, so we're also getting the 15% damage increase on this. And we still have Nature's Fury. So those are all the changes to the build. Once again, you do not need to swap over to, you know, any of this stuff unless you get that unique staff. Once you get this unique staff, Great Staff of the Crone, that is when you'll swap over to utilizing claw. You'll swap over to, you know, getting those bonuses from poison damage. But if you don't have this, you are still better off using Storm Strike. All right, because you're still getting that vulnerable and you're still getting that immobilized, which is way better than anything you get with claw. All right, we all understand. Great. To take a look at the Paragon real quick. Once again, this is nowhere near optimized. I'm only 74. Okay, that's what I tried telling you guys in the last one. You can figure out the Paragon board on your own. I'm just giving you a general idea, okay? A lot of people didn't seem to understand that. They wanted the play-by-play on everything Paragon board related. I don't have that. I'm not getting anywhere close to level 100, but here's what I'm running, okay? So on this first one, I'm running Spirit. This is making it so our landslide is going to be doing extra crit damage, and it also makes it so once you pick up a couple of these dexterity modules here, it's going to make it so critical strikes increase the damage an enemy takes from you for up to 12%. So that's just really nice in general. So that's what I am running there. I come up into the earth damage one, the one with Earth and Devastation. This board, I make sure to get all of these sections that have tons of earth damage and damage to CC'd enemies. In here, I just have Shapeshifter put in, but like I said, probably not optimal whatsoever. This is just nice because it's giving me an extra, 15% on this node here, which is pretty nice. It's giving me an extra 10 willpower, 4% resistance to elements, which doesn't really do anything since resistances are broken. I come up here, I get Earth and Devastation. I make my way over here to the extra damage nodes where I'm getting crowd control damage, all of that good stuff. And then I'm going into the Constricting Tendrils one. And now I had said that I thought that going into the Spirit board would be better, but I actually don't have a lot of issues upkeeping my Spirit now that I am using Claw, because I'm casting Claw and Storm Strike at the same time, so I'm essentially getting double the Spirit generation, which is insane. And then God forbid Earth Pillar spawns as well, then you're getting triple the Spirit generation off of one hit, which is absurd. So I don't really need the extra Spirit at this moment in time, especially since we're using Trample a ton, which doesn't use Spirit. So I make my way into the Tendrils. I pick up the CC damage, of course. I pick up the nature magic damage and damage to elites up here. And I'm working towards getting to the Spirit board as we speak. But I go ahead and I pick up Constricting Tendrils because this is really nice. Makes it so any of our storm magic or our earth magic has a chance to essentially hit them with the poison creeper effect. They'll get immobilized by some vines. The poison is okay, but the immobilize is great because it just gives you stacks, and this makes it so you can get extra stack, essentially. So really, really strong for the build. And then eventually, of course, I'm going to make my way over here and get these nature magic ones. These ones right here, because this is essentially you just want to go around on the Paragon board and collect all the nature magic, collect all the earth damage, all the damage to elites, all the crit damage. That's it. I mean, it's very, very simple, guys. A lot of people seem to have a ton of questions about the Paragon board. It's so incredibly simple. Just get damage. That's it. That is it. You don't really need survivability with the build since you have 100% uptime on Fortify, and you can get a lot of damage reduction through your armor and stuff like that. Just, you know, if you're playing on hardcore, it's different, but softcore is just all about stacking damage. So it's really not that complicated. In my opinion, it's not worth going for a glyph socket over, like in this situation, right? I definitely could have came up here and got this glyph socket, but in my opinion, it's much better to get all this guaranteed fat damage from these like rare and magic node clusters, right? Than it is to worry about the glyph socket. So that's my thought process on that. Now, let me touch on your guys' questions. Okay, you guys have questions and I have answers. So hopefully this will show. These are the questions I'm going to be answering. These were by far the most common questions, so let me touch on them very, very quickly for you guys. I don't want this video to be too crazy long. Why is my damage not as high as yours? This is by far the most common question. Zach, I'm running this build. I'm looking at all your shit. Well, I'm, you know, the same level as you. Why is my damage not as high as yours? This is literally like an unanswerable question unless I am watching you play the game and watching and like seeing all of your stats and skills and everything. Diablo is a game that has so many intertwining mechanics within it. There are so many things that are impacting your damage as you play that it is quite literally impossible for me to tell you guys why the damage is different. All I can do is show you my gameplay. I can show you my equipment, my stats and stuff like that. I unfortunately do not have the ability to tell you why your damage is significantly lower than mine. You have to remember, I have all the Lilith statues, so I'm getting all the stat bonuses from that. I have, you know, the 10 extra skill points from doing all the renown. Not yet, but I will. I'm working on it right now, getting all the extra Paragon points, right, from Renown. On top of that, I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm way better than the average person in terms of gameplay. Like, I didn't really realize that until I started watching other people play the game, but wow, a lot of people are really fucking bad at this game. So the thing about this build is it's fairly high skill, right? There's a lot of things to keep in mind, a lot of stacks going on, a lot of cooldown management, a lot of things resetting cooldowns, a lot of stuff for being efficient, a lot of intertwining between storm skills and earth skills. And if you are dropping the ball on any of those particular places, your damage is going to suffer significantly. This build is specifically tailored to, you know, an autist like me that is just hyper focused and dialed in and able to, you know, essentially have 100% uptime utilizing all these various mechanics. Okay, the average person is not going to be able to do that. I mean, you're talking to a guy that has thousands upon thousands of hours in games and in Diablo, right? So it's unfortunately one of those things where unless I see your gameplay, and because your build could actually be better than mine, but if you're worse than me, your damage isn't going to be as high. You know, that's the thing about this build. Like, it's not like a Whirlwind Barbarian where it's like, oh, you have all of the you have all the stats, now you hold your Whirlwind button and there you go, you're doing higher damage than me. That's not how this build is designed, and that's why I really like this build over something like, you know, the Storm Werewolf build where you just hold Lightning Storm and everything dies. Like, sure, that's cool and all, but this actually takes skill, and that's why I like it. So unless you are properly, you know, paying attention to when Nature's Fury is proccing and swapping to the other element, and you're always like, if you watch my gameplay, I essentially almost always have that 18% extra damage from swapping between Earth and Storm magic. Always. I'm always intertwining between them unless I'm like specifically doing something like going for a vulnerable proc or something like that on an enemy with a basic. So there's a lot of facets at play here, and unfortunately it's just impossible for me to answer that question. All I can do is show you my stuff and be like, there you go. you know, best of luck. Second question, do you have a link to the build? I saw this a lot. A lot of people, I honestly had no idea what the hell they were talking about. I'm like, you're on the video. What? You know, I guess people will like upload guides on builds and stuff like that. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna like lie to you guys or anything like that. I work full time. I'm a full-time student. I work out. I hang out with family. I hang out with friends. You know, I take care of my dog. Like, I have a lot of things to do. So when I have time to play a video game, I like to play the video game. I have to do enough homework through university. I don't want to do homework and compile a build guide, like, and stuff like that. Recording a 20-minute video, that's one thing, but the moment I start delving into typing up an essay, explaining stuff, that's a no from me, dog. So sorry. But apparently a lot of bigger YouTubers have started to showcase similar builds to this after my video, so maybe one of them has done it for you. And I hope you can find something that helps you, but if not, I mean, let's be real. If I can do all of this stuff in my time with how busy I am, and I can fit a 20-minute video or 25-minute video in to my schedule, you can too. I'm gonna keep it real. The only person that's busier than me is like a full-time, you know, father or something like that, like a single father that's working full-time and all of that. Okay, so let's keep it real. I think a lot of people like to think that they're far more busy than they actually are. A lot of people are a little bit lazy. It's not that hard to skim through a video. When should I transition to this build? This was a big one. They're like, hey, when did you swap to it? I'm looking to swap over to it. I've used this build since the very, very beginning. Since level 1, I had it in my head because I had used a landslide build similar in the betas. So I have used it since the very start of the game. It's always been strong. My only tips for earlier in the game is you have to manage your Terra Mote stacks a lot better because you need those guaranteed crits. You won't have the super high crit chance. Like, I think I'm at like 35 to 40% critical strike chance as long as I'm close to enemies right now. You won't have anywhere near that when you're starting off. So you need those guaranteed crits with your landslides. So just keep your CC up, CC as many enemies as possible with, you know, Poison Creeper, and then use those Terra Motes on some of the stronger enemies in the game, on the elites and stuff like that, and you'll be fine. It's not too bad. This build doesn't work in Nightmare Dungeons. Now, I've since posted fighting World Tier 4 Butcher with the build, although I didn't one-shot him or anything like that, but we still beat him. And he was like 10 levels above us or something like that. So, very impressive. I have posted me deleting bosses in Nightmare Dungeons. This 100% works in Nightmare Dungeons, guys. I don't know why people think Nightmare Dungeons are so insanely hard. Unless they have the modifier that's making it so they take less damage from something that you use in the build, you are fine. Like, it's not that big of a deal. You're still going to be doing crazy amounts of damage. And the crazy thing about this game, the higher level you get, the more points you get for Paragon board, which the more damage you get, so the more damage you do. So, like, this entire argument is very silly. I run Nightmare Dungeons all the time on stream. If you want to see that, then feel free to stop by stream. I stream here on YouTube and also twitch.tv/CZ Productions. Subtle plug. Probably should have done that earlier, but, you know, I'm bad at the self-advertising shit. How do I get these aspects? This was a big one. It's all RNG, man. There's no way to target farm or anything like that. The closest you can get is to farm events, which will get you obols, which you can then go and spend those obols for like one-handed weapons. That seems to be the cheapest. And a lot of these aspects will be on weapons, so that's how I would recommend doing it. That's how I've done it for getting the landslide strikes twice and stuff like that. You can also always do Hell Tides, which you need to do anyway for the resources, but you can do Hell Tides and try and get weapons. But yeah, that's really it. It's all random, unfortunately. And then how to do trample. This was something I got a few times and I was very curious about until I tried the game on controller and I instantly understood what people's problem was. So on controller, for some reason, it will just, a lot of the times, say I'm fighting a bad guy and he's right here. I'm fighting a bad guy and he's like right here. I will want to trample all the way over here, right? Because then I'm covering more area with the landslides. But on controller, it doesn't let you do that a lot of the time. It will just go to the bad guy and stop. So then you have all of this area not getting, you know, covered by trample. There's no way to fix that on controller, unfortunately. Kind of one of those advantages mouse and keyboard has, I suppose, but on mouse and keyboard, you literally just put the cursor in the corner of the screen, press 2, and there you go. Like, you're gonna cover a lot more distance than, like, if I was fighting this guy, right? This boar, and I were to be on controller and use it, it's gonna knock him out of the landslides. You see that? So it knocked him out of the landslides. And this is kind of what people are talking about when they're like, how are you doing this? Like, so you really want to do it past him like that. You want to go past your enemies and then they will die to it. Because if you just hit them, it'll be like what just happened there. It'll just hit them back and then you won't be able to kill them. The only exception to that is if you're hitting an enemy into a wall. If I was to be hitting this boar into this wall here, it would be completely fine for me to cast it, like, instead of all the way up here, to cast it like here. So I would do this, it would hit him into this wall, he'd be stunned, and then he'd still get hit by all the landslides. So if there's a wall, you can absolutely hit an enemy into the wall. I could showcase it here. Hit him into a wall, he's still going to get hit with all of these, right? But for the most part, if you're on mouse and keyboard, right, then you want to just put it in the corner of the screen, press 2, and forget about it, and it'll take care of everybody, as you can see there. So anyway, that is all of the most common questions. That's the final version of the build that I'm running. Hopefully I've answered everything. Sorry if any of my answers were not the best, like to make a build guide, fucking spreadsheet or whatever the hell people want, but I'm just not going to do that, and I'm not going to lie to you guys and make it seem like I am or anything like that. I'm just going to keep it 100 with you guys. So anyway, that's the video. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. I'll see all of you in the next video, or stream Rooney. Bye bye.